Hey everyone, I'm Jay.
I'm Sophia, and welcome to Witches Betwixt.
Mm, Today we're gonna be talking about video games. It's it's actually been a minute, I think, since we recorded. Have we recorded since I had surgery? I don't think we have.
No, we haven't. We've been taking breaks since you've had surgery.
Yeah. Yeah, this is kind of like our. It might not kind of seem like it, I guess, because of the posting schedule, but it's kind of like our return after a little bit of a hiatus. Surgery kicked my ass a little bit more than I anticipated. So
Always does. It always does.
yeah, I really didn't know what I was getting into. But we're back. We're here. And we figured it'd be kind of cool and kind of nice to kind of ease back into it and not just dump a super heavy topic on everyone. And I figured actually maybe I think it was Scott who came up with the video game idea.
No, it's me.
It was you? Okay, I couldn't remember. But yeah, Sophia proposed that, we talk about video games and magic, and it kind of piggybacks off of, the last episode that I actually just posted today. Our interview that we had with Ursa, about pop culture and
hmm
the power that pop culture magic can have. So I think, this will be a really cool kind of take and kind of like expand on that. Um, did you kind of want to open up with your thoughts on it,
I
Sophia?
mean, sure, why the fuck not? Why I kind of proposed the idea is there's something that people in my circles of magicians have been rolling with and doing for a little bit now, experimentally, and it's been having just absurdly good results for some reason. We are using video games with magical intent. I'm going to name drop a little bit. One of my friends and I have been doing this. She goes by the name Z on our DKMU server. She actually asked if she could be in on this episode when I was talking to her about recording it, but I kind of shot her down because she lives like way over in Europe, and there's no way that we could possibly like
Mm.
schedule her in because like by the time that she goes to bed, it's like 3 p.m. our time.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
she,
that
like,
would
lives
require some finagling.
yeah, and she, like, lives in the middle of a house, but, hey, Z, if you're listening, girl, this is a shout out to you for helping out with this, we've been kind of experimenting with using video game servers as ritual space. I know this isn't necessarily going to be the most new cutting edge magic technology to people, because people have been doing this in Warcraft's or not Warcraft, Minecraft servers for a while. They've been like setting up their own ritual temples. They've been like measuring out blocks and like doing lesser banishing of the ritual pentagram. And I shit you not, it's actually a wonderful tool, right? Because if you even look at what an altar does, right? We kind of have the whole microcosm for our macrocosm, right? It's like with video game worlds, you build a fucking macrocosm for your macrocosm. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. What do you think, man?
I think, like, the fact that there's so many more building games, and especially because Minecraft really, like, took that, and, people were really inspired by that, and so that whole, like, survival crafting sort of, genre, I think is incredibly powerful because your options are pretty, I don't want to say limitless, but they feel limitless, you know what I mean? It feels like, you can create, sort of a parallel to reality within these games, and then you can sort of manipulate those currents to affect real world change.
Yeah, absolutely. And not even just like crafting games, for example. One of the most potent ones that I've personally experimented with is Doom. Can you guess what I use Doom for?
Well, I know what you use Doom for because we talked about it before, but um, basically, you were saying that you use Doom as a hyper sigil.
Kind of. Doom's essentially a game, for those of you who don't know, where you brutally murder demons. You shoot them in the head, you rip their horns off, you stab them in the face with it, you do every horrible thing that you could possibly do to a demon in existence, and you kill all of them as brutally as possible. This
Yep.
game works as a Phenomenal banishment. I'm shitting you not. I'm like, I shit you not. I have days where I'm depressed in something, and it's like, you know what? I think it's time to rip and tear. And I'll just load
Mhm.
up Dune Eternal. I'll toss on like maybe one of the master levels if I'm feeling like it's something I really need to work through. Because a good thing about Doom too is the game is so fucking difficult. It almost requires Gnosis as like a gateway entry fee just to be able to beat the fucking level. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, you gotta, like, really be in the zone.
Yeah, and I play on Nightmare. Like, I'm not gonna say, "Oh yeah, you gotta play on permadeath or you're a wuss," right? But
Right.
oof, but playing on nightmare mode is pretty fucking hard, I tell you what. And some people won't even be able to beat the game or even be able to play it on those difficulties, and that's fine too. Like, you don't need to play it on the hardest difficulty to make that spell work.
Mhm.
But it definitely adds it some juice. And I swear to God, when people are casting shit at me and I need something to go away and I got all these energies swirling up, I will just boot up Doom and fucking rip and tear some demons' heads off, you know?
And do you hold, like, a particular like, can't get my words out today. Do you hold a particular, like, visualization in your head, like, as you're
Um,
doing that?
Not really. I just do it with ritual intent, right?
Hmm.
It's like the difference between sweeping your house just because you want to clean it up and sweeping the energies out, right? It's a matter of what you're doing with your attention while you're doing it, you know?
Mhm.
So you could just absolutely play these games mindlessly and have them take no effect, or you could do them ritually and have them take
Why?
effect. It doesn't necessarily have to be a specific action you take or a specific ritual, but just like setting the intent when you do it, you know?
Mhm. What other have you tried this, like, anything similar with any other games?
Holy fuck yeah. I could like pretty much sit down and give you a list here. So what kind of prompted me to realize this system was happening was there'd been a thing that we were noticing in DKMU for a while where we do stuff and we have synchronicities kind of spill over into other things, right?
Mhm.
And we didn't know what the fuck was going on, but video games specifically kept having synchronicities pop up. Like one of our people, Ahava, was doing a World Hook program where they literally like tried to find an alternate reality to send hooks into to dump off entropy from our reality to like help our reality keep going. I
Mm.
shit you not, in Elder Scrolls Online, they had a point where these giant hooks came out of the sky from another dimension and were like fucking attacking Tamriel, right?
Mm.
So that caused a little bit of raised eyebrows to begin with, right? And then there's other stuff that started happening like that, like Destiny. I can't tell you how many times Destiny as a game lines up with the hyper sigil of what we're doing.
Yeah.
It boggles my fucking mind. Like the ships of the darkness literally look identical to one of the sigils that we have for the Black Trigag.
Really?
Yes, I'm shitting you not. I'll put them in the fucking show notes if you need.
Damn.
Yeah, and, just real big synchronicities keep happening, like the day that the darkness was arriving in Destiny 2, there was a bunch of shit like that that was popping up in our server, and we had a egregore that represents the, cold aspect of the year, winter, start to show up, and we, are kind of working with that now in response and building, kind of where she fits into the system, right? But um, lo and behold, after we had been having all these crazy synchronicities with these games that had been happening, I knocked my hard drive over on my PlayStation the other day,
Mm.
and I picked it up and I looked at it, and I just kind of like had my jaw drop. Right, um, on this hard drive, it was originally a box that I had kept a lot of original DKMU files on.
Mhm.
So I'm talking like videos from our YouTube channel, recordings from some of the artists who were doing stuff like 10 years ago, a whole bunch of our documents. Like this thing fucking carried shit for a long time. And I don't know if I've told you this or not, but DKMU stuff is incredibly infamous for like corrupting hard drives it's
Mhm.
on, getting hit by lightning and destroyed. If you could possibly fuck up some DKMU information so it doesn't exist anymore, it'll happen, right?
Right.
It'll happen to us. But the fact that this hard drive just somehow managed to survive everything, and then I just like, without thinking, tossed all the information back onto the internet for people later on, and then wiped it and used it for my PlayStation. And I didn't even take the fucking sigil off, right? So then I like
Oh.
knock it off and I'm looking at it and we're having all these mysteries happen. I'm like, why is all this shit happen? I look and there's like an intricate linking sigil I have painted on it, and then picking it up and holding it and realizing that it's like essentially an equivalent to like a modern Solomonic box, and how you can use fucking portable hard drives to curse people now. And that became like a whole type of tech that we're kind of working with now for magical stuff. Yeah. You want to hear about
Damn.
that?
So, like, I guess, because you know, like, some people put skins on, like, their consoles
Mm-hmm.
or, like, on their controllers and stuff. Like, I guess you could really do that with, like, sigils and glyphs and
Mm-hmm.
different imagery. Like, you could draw them on there, or even just, like, you could draw it on a piece of paper and, like, tape it to it, you know, if you didn't want to draw on your actual system. I think that would have the
Yeah.
same effect, but if you know, you kind of attach a symbol to it, you know, whatever the intent may be, you know, whatever you're doing in there in that game can amplify whatever you're trying to
So,
do with that image.
yeah, regrettably so, you're correct. Because what ended up happening another time when I was younger and stupid about this and hadn't realized what was happening, um, I got a bunch of stickers when I bought this album from a metal company, and it was like, oh yeah, here's a sticker, and it's got like a goetic seal on it, you know. And me being fucking baby witch like 11 years
Slap
ago or
that
some
bitch on
shit.
the first thing
Yeah,
you
slap that shit on my PlayStation. Actually, it wasn't 11 years ago, it was 7 years ago, but whatever. And next thing you know, I'm fucking dealing with all the influences of, like, conflict and these absurd things popping off the way that you wouldn't expect them to, but it just happens to be in perfect synchronicity with the name of the fucking goetic demon whose seal I had slapped on my, PlayStation that was running constantly. Because you know how much I play my PlayStation.
Oh yeah.
You know how much gnosis I throw into that fucker when I'm doing my stuff?
Hmm.
Like, oh, and so, like, I literally had to take that thing off and throw the plate away. I threw that chunk of my PlayStation away. It was like the covering that, keeps the hard drive covered, and it just looks a little bare bones now because I didn't even fucking want that thing in my room, you know?
Wow.
Yeah, and, guess what happened after I got rid of it? Things started to go a lot better.
Imagine that. It's almost
Yeah.
as
It's almost as if magic fucking works, and if you're reckless about it, it'll fuck you up, and you have to learn lessons from being a dumbass.
and what's really cool now is, I mean, we have like portable gaming. Like, portable gaming is so huge, especially with phones. There's so much you can
Oh,
do
yeah.
there. Especially if you know, you could have interchangeable sigils on your phone, pick a particular game, you know, charge it with that energy. Because there's also a lot of like shooting games and stuff too for mobile. So, and I feel like they're always pretty easy to use, like to charge and draw energy, just because they're so
Mhm.
high action and so fast
Yeah.
paced.
I mean, like, fuck, one thing I used to do back when I was playing Battlefield is they had a custom emblem generator that you could do. So you could go online and use like lines and arrows and these different shapes and stuff to make yourself a little emblem that would like show up on your guns and show up on the kill screen when you killed someone, right?
Right.
So some people got really technical and had computers like auto generate images from the shapes that you had, so you could get really complex things like, you know, the zigzag man smiling and smoking a joint on the back of your friend's shield, right?
Yeah.
um but what I did was the linking sigil in 156. So every single person I killed in Battlefield for like the 5+ years that I played that game, they got the 156 and the linking sigil slapped up in their face on it, right? And
Mm,
every gun I was ever shooting had that on it. And so every single person who I ever pissed off and ever won a match against was seeing that thing and feeling it in their anger, right?
mm. And what do you think that contributed, like, to the
I don't have a
power?
fucking clue.
I guess you'll find out one day, or maybe you'll never find out.
I
Who
mean,
knows?
um, I could definitely theorize a lot of things that it definitely did because I was playing it in Battlefield, and while I mean, like, look at how conflict in our world kind of started to escalate, right? And I don't
True.
want to act like I'm personally responsible for that just because I played fucking Battlefield and had linking sigil in it, but your magic has an effect on you, and don't even get me started about multiverse theory. One, if magic works and you can use it, which let's assume that we both of those are true because you're here listening to this podcast anyways, like
Mhm.
what happens when you do magic, right? What you alter reality, right?
Mhm.
And you change the timeline that you're in. And that's why the plural of magician is war, because anytime you get a bunch of us fuckers together, we're fighting with each other over what we want to do, you know?
Yeah, because everyone has a different approach or opinion about what
Mhm.
should be done and how it should be done. And I'm sure there are plenty of witches out there right now who would even see the topic of this episode and they'd be like, "Oh, no. That's not real. That's not possible." And I think that technology and witchcraft have always been linked. I think they've always followed each other. I mean, without without the internet, I mean, we wouldn't have our community wouldn't be the way it is now. You know what I mean? Like
Oh, totally.
like that. If anything, that helped our community grow so much, and it's so funny for for a community that is like, you know, oh, nature and respect the old ways. I guess like some of the more snotty trad witches out there. I think I'm thinking of, but like those types. And then, but they're the same. But they're the ones tweeting about it and like TikToking about it and like all this bullshit. It's like, well, you're using your technology to like preach a bunch of bullshit that doesn't make fucking sense.
Yeah, it's this weird kind of paradox I find with a lot of practitioners where we're very happy to live in modernity for certain stuff, right? Like
Right.
you love technology when it's giving you your gas heat so you don't have to chop your fucking wood. You love how you can order your food online and it comes to you. You love all these things and being able to move away from where you grew up and to talk to your family and your parents still. But then you turn around and you're like, oh yeah, that technology, that's not magic. I can't believe how many would be serious magicians I've met who look down their nose at technomancy. Like really? You think that people who manage to trap electricity in rocks and make it compute so advanced that we have systems that can like predict incoming asteroids potentially 50 years in the future and
Mm-hmm.
send a fucking missile out to meet that asteroid and land on it and set a fucking jet on so that it pushes it out of the planet's trajectory and doesn't kill us. Like, think about that for a second, how incredible that feat is. You couldn't do that without technology. The most you could do is to try and pull everybody together in the planet and try and will it to not happen. And I don't want to put limitations on what magic can or cannot do, but I certainly wouldn't want to fucking will an asteroid out of the path of my planet with a spell. I'd much rather have a thruster on that thing pushing it out of the way, you know?
Well,
And it's
right,
just
and it's always the idea of like you have to in addition to the magic that you're doing, you got to do something else to 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 do the thing. You know what I mean?
right.
Like
And
can't
it's
you
like
can't do a job spell without filling out a job application. It's not how that works.
it's like I will do a smudge every single day that I'm alive, right? But I still will go get a vaccine.
Right.
And yeah, I'll get the COVID vaccine when it comes. I know people be losing their goddamn minds over controversy and all that stuff and being like, "Oh, it'll change your stuff. It'll change your stuff." It's like, man, You know what'll change my stuff? If I catch COVID and it permanently damages my lungs, or if I catch COVID and I can't work and it makes me fucking homeless and I die of the cold. Like, there's a lot worse things than just like the side effects of a vaccine that will be thoroughly tested before it gets to me, you know? I
Mm-hmm.
will happily take that vaccine when it comes. And I'm somebody who still could like go off and live in the woods if I wanted to, but I also realize how absurd it is to like have vaccines against polio, but
Right.
then somehow think that vaccines against COVID are magically bad. Like like the scientific literacy of the average individual in 2020 is starting to be absolutely shocking, you know? Like
Yeah.
the amount of people I've seen circulate things that are just verifiably false, like saying wearing a mask will lower your oxygen rate so much that like it does these certain things, and it's just not true. Your mask can make it hard to breathe if you have asthma. Yeah, as somebody who has asthma, I still wear a fucking mask.
Right, because the science is there to prove that
Yeah.
it's effective and it works.
Yeah, exactly. I know, and I know we're getting onto like a little mini tangent rant about
Current
scientific
affairs.
literacy. Yeah, but I mean it's relevant too, right?
It
You get
is.
it people turning their nose up at technomancy and modern incarnations of magic as it's going to grow and adapt. It's the same shit people been doing since the dawn of time. That's like people who hand wrote books looking sideways at the printing press. You know what I mean?
Right. When I first kind of was introduced to technomancy, I mean, I was still pretty young, and it's not that I turned my nose up at it at all. It just one, it didn't interest me then. Um,
Mhm.
but two, um, I didn't really turn my nose up at it. I just didn't understand it. I didn't really get it. I didn't really know what it was really about. I was like, can you actually like do stuff with that? But I never really explored it until I think as I got older, and I think like actually more recently, I've really I've opened myself up to the idea of starting to maybe like incorporate some technomancy into my own practice, because everything that I do is very much rooted in technology, right? So I don't want to have like a million tech issues while we're recording the podcast. So, I should probably start to find ways to mitigate that, both, just by me making sure all my equipment is good and checking my settings and stuff like that more frequently, but also, um, maybe put a little put a little juice out there. Um, but I never thought of using a video game as a way to cast a spell, which
Yeah.
is something that I actually I'm kind of thinking now. I'm like, man, which games could you use? Because I feel like racing games could also be really useful and powerful.
I I'm gonna be honest, the sky's the limit.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like magic. That's like saying, I wonder what plants you could use for spells. All of them. You can
True.
you can use all of them.
True.
You know, it's just a matter of what it does. Like for example, if I wanted to do a racing game, I'd look at what it does. Racing games make you focus on spatial awareness. You have to be able to move through that thing without touching anything, yet moving as quickly as possible. If you were to, like, say, be somebody who struggles with being on time for stuff, maybe playing a racing game with magical intent for like 30 minutes when you wake up in the day could be something that you start to do to set that Gnostic intent of being in that flow state where nothing's touching you, you're not crashing into corners, you're going as quick as you can and turning on a knife's edge, and then suddenly it transfers over into your day, right? It's no different than, like, say, holding honey under your tongue to do a honey charm, right?
Right. I mean, wow. So like, a fighting game. I'm trying to think
Oh,
like what kind of
work out.
spells you could use that for. Yeah,
If you wanna
like
work out, fucking go play a fighting game, go play Tekken and stuff. Because also, like, those games get your blood pumping, they're pissed off.
yeah.
You have to hit these keys really fast, and your hands are doing these intense tight movements that actually is a very good workout for your fingers. Like, fighting games and repetitive action movement games actually do build really strong strength in your digits and your hand muscles, right?
And then there's actual just like, motion games, if you have
Mhm.
like a Switch or Wii or whatever, or something like that, or a lot of the VR headsets that are out.
Oh god, I want PlayStation VR so bad so I can play Beat Saber. You, like, literally just get, like, 2 lightsabers and
Yeah.
you're, like, cutting fucking cubes to a song. As somebody who's, like, trained in swords and loves music and loves to drum, I could play Beat Saber until my arms fall the fuck off.
Yeah, I really want to get it too. I really do want to get that game. I'm not really into like
Yeah,
dance games necessarily, you know what I mean?
I
But
love them.
I do like rhythm games, but I
Mhm.
don't really like well, I saw Beat Saber and I was like, "Yo, that looks fucking perfect."
I
And there's
have
a lot
done
you could do with that
dance.
too. Oh my god, especially because
Yeah.
it's music too. So it incorporates that, like that like just music in and of itself raises so much energy and plus all that motion and you're sweating and
Oh,
you're
yeah.
getting into it and you're focusing on it. That could be
As long as you
really
don't hurt
powerful.
yourself. As long as
Yeah.
you don't hurt yourself, right? Because like, I have popped my back out a little bit to just dance before and been
Mhm.
like, "Oh, no." So, like, be careful, warm up. If you're gonna do the VR ones, like, they're no joke. You can actually fucking hurt yourself doing some VR games.
Yeah, because it's also harder to, like, be aware of your actual surroundings because 'cause you're just so immersed in the
Uh-huh.
game.
And, like, Just Dance, for example, will get you doing movements that your body never normally does. Dance movements specifically get you to do these weird, like, shaky shake things where it, like, looks cool, but, you might not use your muscles normally that way, and then you pinch a nerve and suddenly you're laying on the ground. So just, do this with care if you're going to do the VR ones.
Yeah, and also not only video games could be used as, like, for spell work, I was also thinking they can also be used as an offering to certain deities, if deity work
Oh.
is something that people do, like, if you're I was thinking, like if you want to give an offering to say Athena, like a game like Horizon Zero Dawn might be like a fun game, to kind of like because it's like very hunting and survival and um, it's very Athena like when you think of the symbology surrounding her. So you could kind of play that game and as sort of like an offering to her, which I think that would be kind of an interesting concept.
You could also use it if you're getting really pissed off at technological issues and you want to kill some fucking computer monsters.
That's also true. Yeah, that could be used. Yeah.
hmm Yeah, there's near endless amounts, and certain games, for example, you can drop items on the ground that will physically vanish, right? And I've been thinking a lot about this. Okay, um, what is a video game? It's just electrical code, right?
hmm
What are you as a person?
Um, I guess we're kind of also electrical code. We're just a series of what electrical impulses.
Yes, exactly that. I was going to say for anybody who's familiar with death, relevant to one of the episodes we done recently, when you die, the weight that's actually lost out of your body is mostly the oxygen that's held in your lungs and like the gases that you're actively keeping in through muscle tension, right?
hmm
That and the electrical impulses are what leave your body to determine whether or not you are no longer living. If you are without breath and you are without electrical response, you're dead. And
hmm
that's why a defibrillator will fucking kick your heart back into life. We as beings are breath and electricity. right? There's a big thing that I've been learning on my own personal system that I'm not going to go too much into, but I'm really starting to think that we humans really do come from the four elements, you know? We have a body that is tied, it's made of earth, it's got water in it. We have to have the breath to keep us going, and without the heat, without the electricity, we're dead, you know?
Mm.
And when all of those come together, we are us, right? And I'm starting to feel like the spirit body in essence is its nature is of wind and electricity, you know?
Yeah,
And
it's like there has to be a reason why things often come back to those same main archetypes, that earth,
right.
fire, a lot of everything that you find in the occult, magic, even just different cultures, a lot of it breaks down into these main elements.
Yeah. And it's really interesting when you start to look at it, right? Like any fans of Full Metal Alchemist will be able to tell you exactly what the human body is made out of, yet there's still that unverifiable quintessence that we have at our core that always baffles scientists, you know, and it's often called the breath of life. Like even the word animal means animated with breath, having life, you know, all of those things come together. So if you look at these video games, they can't run without electricity and air. One, electricity generates heat. So that heat needs to have proper circulation, otherwise, it overheats and dies. You
Mm-hmm.
can't play video games on a PlayStation or anything of a sufficiently advanced nature that could properly simulate a reality without one, an energy input system, and two, a circulatory system. Now, to also do that, you need to have a physical thing on it. And literally, video games are only missing water as an element. And even then, they probably have some water in some degree in them based off of how those materials came together, right? Like, I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
water plays a part in the forming of metals and the precious materials that end up coming together to make them,
And I
right?
mean, if
So,
you're a PC gamer, sometimes people do have like a liquid
liquid cooling.
cooling. Yeah.
Yeah, but even then, like the circuits become like the veins of the body, right? And we breathe life into these machines so that we can simulate entire universes on them. Like, you know No Man's Sky?
Yeah.
Do you know how fucking big that nearly infinite game is?
Yeah, it's freaking massive. It's ginormous.
No, I mean in its data size. Do you know how big it is?
No, but I know it's not that it doesn't take up too much space on my hard drive though.
13 gigabytes.
Yeah, that's not bad. Destiny was fucking bigger and
Hold
it's
on for a second. Call of Duty, for example, is
ugh
100 gigabytes. We have a game.
stupidly big.
Yes, but we have a game like No Man's Sky. Because it uses procedural generation similar to our universe,
Hmm.
you can code a near infinite space J within 13 gigabytes. Okay? You see where I'm going?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Think about how much you could do with, I don't know, just a 2 terabyte hard drive.
Yeah.
On a 2 terabyte hard drive, because I've done the math, you can fit 153 copies of No Man's Sky.
So you could fit 153 universes.
Not just universes, actually. If you've played No Man's Sky, you actually know, big spoiler coming out, there's multiple universes in it because you play actually galaxies, technically, because I'm going to be very specific. A universe is not necessarily a hard quantifiable size. But if I say galaxy, it puts it in perspective of the Milky Way. Yeah, the Milky fucking Way for how big that is. Even though the planets aren't actually model scale to how big they would be
Right.
for those masses, they're still just dwarfing levels huge. And if you got a planet the size Jupiter, you could fucking spend the rest of your game just exploring that fucking planet and finding the fucking crevices of the mountains if you wanted to.
Hmm.
But when you get to the center of the galaxy, or you follow Atlas's quest to go leave the center of the galaxy, you go to another fucking galaxy. And you can keep doing that. You can explore up to like 20 fucking different galaxies in this game. 20 Milky Ways in 13 gigabytes. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's insane. Like the amount of options that are there are just completely crazy.
all that you would need to be able to simulate reality is a file bank big enough to hold the data for it, which doesn't seem like it has to have that much required, and B, a processor big enough to run it, and C, a cooling system big enough to cool it. That seems like it's pretty much going to be it, right? And if you look at, like, I don't know, the energy generated from stars, the cooling distance of space, and the motion and everything. Oh no, we're in a simulation.
Fuck. Jeez. I got I got way way bigger than I thought it was gonna.
Well, I mean, it's got, if you look at reality, it's got to scale up and it's got to scale down.
Yeah. No, it's
If
just
you
it's like it's almost like in my head I'm like, where do you go from there? You know what I mean? Like we're like video games and magic and you're like you can put universes in a PlayStation and I'm like, fuck.
Oh, trust me, I thought a whole fucking episode out ahead of time with this one. But yeah, like seriously, and I'm even gonna toss you out some fucking cutting edge curses that we've just developed with that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Um, but here's the thing that I kind of start coming back to, right? Like it has to scale, right? Like our universe itself could be the hardware for simulating something bigger, and we're just caught at being aware of where we're at that step, right? Because if you think about it, even your body, you might think of yourself as a singular being, but you're not. Your body is a cluster of so many single cellular organisms that even your skin is just a massive amount of other living beings. And
Yeah.
I know this may sound really, really trippy, right? But your whole body is a universe of living beings. And a universe of living beings should probably make another living being, right? So
Right.
of course our planet is alive. Of course our star is aware. Why the fuck wouldn't it be? How could you have a massive energy that big that has a fucking gravitational force that can sustain life on planets that just fucking passively come by it? That's what you do. That's what you do. You're so big that you eating food and just existing passively sustains the life of your cells. So of course our planet's aware. Of course our stars are aware. Of course the universe is fucking neurons firing in the brain of creator, you know?
It reminds me of the Rick and Morty episode where it's actually it's a pocket universe, I think it is, that powers
Yeah.
his car. But then
Yeah.
their power source for their universe is another
Another
pocket
battery.
universe.
Yeah, and it keeps going in and going in, and
Yeah.
it's like
That show
yeah,
gets trippy too. There's a lot we could
and
talk
that
about
show's
just about
also
Rick and
incredibly
Morty.
fucking problematic too because of like Dan Hammond being a fucking piece of shit.
Oh, what's up with
Um,
him?
I don't even want to get into it right now. I'd have to like look up stuff to send you links so we can talk about it another time.
I didn't
Um,
know. I didn't know he was a dick.
it's problematic.
Mm.
Anyways, where are we? Yeah, and even with that, the whole paradox thing is it can always keep going down, right? And it can always keep going up. Have you ever heard of the phrase "it's turtles all the way down"?
No, I've never heard of that phrase before.
Have you ever heard of the series Discworld?
Yes,
Terry
Terry.
Terry Pratchett wrote it. It's a phenomenal series. The man is a fucking genius. He managed to write a hyper sigil so big that it encapsulates the nature of reality, but just with the absurdity of what it is put to the forefront rather than put to the back burner. Because like in our reality, we don't constantly examine how everything is this constant paradox of itself, right?
Right.
We kind of gloss over it. We pretend like this little material reality is it. And in their reality, they know it's this like wild high magic universe. Like the Grim Reaper himself is a main character,
Hmm.
right?
Right, death
Yeah.
or something.
hmm and all kinds of shit like that happens, and in that universe they quite knowingly know that they're on the back of a giant turtle. I'm gonna say this: native people call North America Turtle Island for a reason, my friend.
That was in a lot of North American like native, I think, creation myths too, was the idea of that we were like on the back
The
of a
world being
turtle.
on the back of a turtle. Yeah, like specifically in the creation myth, which I actually can't tell you right now because there's not snow on the ground and I don't want to run into trouble with the trickster, so I'm not going to say the tale because it would require me to say his name. But yeah, there's a lot of different stories where after the world gets destroyed by a flood, there is earth placed on the back of the turtle, and trickster uses their power to make the earth multiply until it becomes the entire of the land that we walk across, and that's how the world gets rebuilt after it's flooded. But there's like many different variations of that story, and that's just like one specific version I've heard, right?
Yeah, yeah. I remember in school, they taught us a couple different versions of it, from different tribes in the area.
There are, and I'll say this, there are as many creation stories as there are individual groups of indigenous people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many, like even within Cree people, right? Because I'm part Cree, I'm Cree Métis. There's like Plains Cree, Moose Cree, Innu, there's Northern Cree, and there's like subgroups within that, and I could not even come close to speaking for a fraction of that stuff because I'm still constantly just learning as much as I can, and I know by comparison very little, right? So that's why I don't pretend to speak for anyone other than just what I've been through myself, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I know there's a lot of sources online that you can look up for like those stories. Some of them are available to read through, which I like them. I think
They're
they're
fucking wonderful.
yeah, I
And I
think
know
they're
we're a
really
little
nice
off topic
stories.
now, but like reading native creation stories and vision books is like probably my favorite thing to spend my time reading.
Yeah, and I mean, in terms of games, so many games take inspiration from ancient texts, ancient people. I don't even say ancient peoples, but you know what I
Yeah.
mean, like different cultures of people and stuff. I mean, we just have what's the new Assassin's Creed, Valhalla. So
Yep.
there's a lot of Nordic kind of things, and I would imagine that there's going to be some kid out there that's going to play that game, and something in that game is going to speak to them. And I feel like, they're going to get started down a path. They're going to be like, oh, what about the Nordic gods? What about this do I like? And they're going to get curious,
Yeah.
and they're going to search for more information, and that's going to start them on their path to wherever their path leads them.
Hmm.
Um like for me, the game that did that for me was Dark Cloud 2 for PlayStation 2.
Oh, that's a good one. That I fucking love that game actually.
That game
With
has everything.
the kid with the wrench and the girl with the sword,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The game has everything. The game has, like it's a beautiful blend of science, logic, magic, and fantasy. And
Mhm.
for some reason, it all fits and it all just makes sense. Um, Basically, it's like, what is it? Max lives in the past, and Monica's from the future, and Monica comes to Max's time, because they both have these magic stones that will help them basically defeat the big bad and fix time and stuff. But so what Max does is, because he's in the past, he rebuilds things that have been destroyed, and it affects the future and makes the
Mhm.
future better. And it's a really really cool game because it really gets into the building blocks of like, okay, well, if you want to build this house, you need earth and clay and stone, and but it's not like mining like in Minecraft. Like you just collect the things like while you're in the dungeons, and you can buy certain building materials.
Mhm.
But you could craft in that game, and you had magic, and you could transform yourself into monsters. And there was just so many amazing characters in that game. I recommend anyone to play that game. You can actually
Yeah.
download it for PS4. They do
As
have a
somebody who
digital
grew up
version.
on Dark Cloud 2 as well, without too many spoilers, I fucking loved how they did the story in the end. And
Mm,
I mean, spoilers for like a fucking 20-year-old game, right?
yeah.
But like the big bad actually is a kid who's
Right.
upset because like what he grew up with had been destroyed and he was like devastated by loss.
Mhm.
Oh, wow. How fucking human is that, right?
Right.
Rather than the big bad being some horrible monster that you gotta just like externalizes the problems for everything. He's somebody who is hurt and had something taken away from him. And rather than hurt him, you compassionately go and restore what he's lost.
Mhm. Right.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, it's an amazing, amazing game. Um Also, the first Dark Cloud was also very good, but Dark Cloud 2 just did something a little different from the first one that just made it a I would almost say that it was a perfect game,
And
like a
it
perfect
like
RPG.
I know it was good because it pissed me off when I was a kid that there was a final boss who I didn't get beat. Like I rolled my fucking
Right.
eyes at the game and I was like, "Are you kidding me? I've come this far and you don't even give me a boss to beat with the power I've attained. Fuck you." And I got mad. Like, stop playing. Even though like the final dungeon is ludicrously hard.
Yeah, it's like 100. It's like 100 floors. I've never actually
Oh,
finished that. It
oh
is.
my god.
I actually really want. Oh my gosh, should I do a playthrough of Dark Cloud 2?
No, it'll take you like 500 fucking hours.
I know there's so much to do in that game too. Like if you actually set out to 100% that game, holy shit, there's so much to do. We'll be playing forever.
Yeah, that's a great game as a hyper sigil. Like you literally, rather than
You
like
fix the world.
fucking shit up, you build people homes,
Mm-hmm.
you build communities, you go to places that have been devastated by conflict and rebuild it. It's like that's what we needed as a generation.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it even like shows you the follies. It's like such a human game actually. One of the quests from that game sticks in my head harder than anything else I've ever played. There's a guy who has a quest he gives you. He wants you to get him a magic paintbrush so he can paint himself a wife because whatever you paint with it comes to reality, right? And so you go and you do this deed for him thinking you're actually going to help him, and in the end he paints his wife and then he ignores her and says, "Yeah, this first wife was good, but wait till you see the second wife who I make. She's going to be even better." And it's like he completely doesn't even appreciate what he gets from it, and she gets left as a consequence to feel sad about it. And like she's a whole human being who gets created just for him, for his own personal megalomania, and then he has the audacity to toss her aside and think that he deserves something even more perfect than that. And it leaves you to kind of sit with the sheer inhumanness of what this man has actually done with that moment, and you just kind of go like, you're a horrible person, you know?
That was so fucked up. I remember like doing that, and I was like, wait, is he for real? Are you fucking
Mhm.
serious right now? And then like as an adult, like, replaying it and thinking about that, you're like, oh shit. Like, man, that's really fucked up.
It's such a moral lesson, though, to teach you that that's what people are sometimes really going to be like, and to do it in that way without it being a traumatizing thing. That was a lesson that taught me a big thing about humanity when I was a kid, to know that some people I shouldn't trust. That actually really helped me growing up.
Yeah. I always thought the one thing in the game that I always loved the trope, like your first dungeon is the underground sewer.
Mhm.
I always thought that was kind of fun in that game. But
Yeah,
it
and then the
really.
final one's like fucking magma waterfalls and
Oh,
big
and not to
magma
mention
shit.
the main premise. So the main premise of the game, so Max lives in this town called Palm Brinks, which is surrounded by walls. Like he hasn't ventured outside the walls of this town. So he's never like the town is like blocked off from the outside world. There's a railroad system that'll take you to the outside world. But it's not hooked up in the beginning. So this like this metaphor for like, breaking out of your hometown, or like, seeing the world and going on this grand adventure. It's just, and Max is very much like a kid. He's like what, 12 maybe?
13, yeah. And
13?
also, it's like literally a representation of breaking out of Malkut, like the physical reality of just hardened, condensed, only physical reality exists, and seeing there's so much more, you know?
And it's so cool because Max is like the sciencey character. He's really good with machines, so he's good at fixing things and building things.
He's an
And
engineer.
yeah, and Monica's, she's a princess, I think, right?
She's a sword fighter, is what I remember. I don't know.
I know
God,
she's
this game is
royalty.
so old. Yeah.
Yeah, she's royalty. She uses magic, and she uses a sword to fight with. Um, but what's cool about Max is he's so open. Like, even though, he's very like, you know, I guess science and mechanics and robot, whatever. He's really open. He's like, "Oh, magic and time travel, and okay, and yeah, sure, like let's help and save people and save the world." Uh and also he's not your typical main character. He doesn't come from nothing. He's actually comes from a very wealthy family, but his dad doesn't really interact with him. That's the other angle of Max I also
God.
really thought was
So,
interesting.
can I talk about something that is tropes that kind of get repeated throughout media that are representations of where we are at as a culture?
Mm,
So the representation of Max being a kid who doesn't have parental engagement is a meme because that's something that we as millennials experienced, right?
mm,
A lot of us would be coming from baby boomers because baby boomers had money, right?
right,
We don't have money, but boomers did. And we were the last generation to be raised by them. So there is a lot of us who, not necessarily myself, but others had families that were fairly fucking well to do, that had like multiple vehicles, that had like computers and video game systems. And I even ended up having that stuff by a certain age, but like we did have financial struggles too, right?
right,
But there was very much this economic stability that boomers had that translated to the emptiness of material wealth in excess, and how it actually leads to a distance between you and your kids, right?
right,
It's like a meme that got played a lot on. You can even see it in Sonic X. Like the main character is like this petulant, obnoxious child who everybody hates, but he goes on these missions with Sonic because his rich parents are so fucking busy off doing shit that they can't be bothered to even watch their child. And so he runs off with like a supersonic hedgehog that gets him into like life over limb peril constantly because like his parents are completely inadequate in their care for him, right?
mm-hmm,
And that's kind of like the meme of uh millennials a little bit, and also boomers even fucking shamed us for it. Like they're like, yeah, you're just entitled little shits, even though like they raised us to be exactly however we would be, and then they blame us for it too, so
right,
that's like the representation of the economic stability that boomers had that kind of trickled over into the spiritual dissonance between them and us, right? And then you can see it now. A lot of games don't have or even media, there's not that theme of families being well off and the kid just wanting to go off on adventure anymore. It's always the family is so busy struggling that the kid is either like one, not ever being watched so they can get up to whatever they want, like
mm-hmm,
say Rugrats. If you go watch the show Rugrats,
right,
I mean, these also kind of did come out at around the same time, but it does show you a family that's in economic straits, and like how they don't necessarily watch their kids too much, and also they do kind of piss away money on frivolous things like a fucking shadow puppets thing
mm-hmm.
for Tommy's first birthday, which like nobody should ever be like
No.
freaking out over, for your 1-year old kid who's not even gonna remember it.
When I was recovering from surgery, kind of the only game system that I could really play was the Switch. because it was really like painful to like try and like put my arms together to hold a controller, like a PlayStation controller, and I really couldn't be on the computer either. So I was like, "Fuck!" And I really wanted to like do something to distract myself from the pain. So, but I was able to play the Switch, which was awesome because the Joy-Con split in half, and I played a lot of. I finished up Bayonetta 2. So I was playing Bayonetta for a while. So I had finished the first Bayonetta, before I had surgery, and then I finished 2 while I was in recovery, which I was a little bummed because 2 seemed a lot shorter, than the first one, but it was still really cool. But there's just so much symbolism. It's very I feel like it's very themed of like Dante's Inferno, sort of like inspired by that. Um, and I'm a big fan of that story. But just there's so much magic in that game, and the fact that she's like a like a darker sort of witch. So Bayonetta herself, she made a pact with Madame Butterfly is a demon, right? So Madame Butterfly is a demon, and she made a pact with her, so that way she could have a lot of the powers that she does.
Mm.
And but there's this one boss that you fight in the game, and that particular boss has beef with Madame Butterfly. So like there's also like this like scene where it's Madame, like the actual demon of Madame Butterfly, and this other demon like duke it out. And I just started thinking, I was like, like, could you imagine like a situation in which like you're getting into like, I don't know, people that do demon work and stuff like that. Like, imagine like summoning two demons that like didn't like each other. Like, could you imagine summoning two entities that disliked each other?
No, because I very much don't do conjuring work
Right,
because I don't like the implications of it, and that would
right.
definitely
Like,
be one of the implications of it I wouldn't like.
yeah. I don't really do any conjuring. I don't really do a lot of conjuring work either, just because I don't want to be caught in situations like that.
Mm.
I really only try and contact things that I know like me. I really try not to dial up things that I've never really interacted with before. Because usually I just wait until things kind of present themselves to me, but I just don't think I'd be the one to be dialing up, um, demons and things like that. At least not right
Yeah.
now. I really haven't seen a need for it. Maybe at some point in my life I will. I really don't know. But as of right now, I can say I am not dialing demons.
Tell you this, as far as I go with demons, my policy has been don't dial them up, don't talk to them, let them do whatever the fuck they want outside of me. Like, if they're not fucking with me and my people, fine. I don't need to be going around and being like, fuck every demon ever who ever lived. But like, if they fuck with me or somebody and I need to get rid of them, I take no shit and I hold no quarter and I do what I have to do, sort of thing.
You go full Doom guy on them?
I mean,
In a way.
let's be really honest. No,
No?
because demons, real life, they don't have much problem with me. I
Nah,
don't summon them into
yeah,
circles.
that's
I
true.
don't demand knowledge out of them. I don't fucking invoke their names. I don't do anything to piss them off.
Well, I
And
guess
I'm
my one of
somebody
my
who walks
questions,
around with like six fucking wards on.
right?
And if they were to throw shit at me, it'll fucking hit them back and stuff. And like, I got like a six of Mars and like four sacred herbs. I'm not gonna go on everything, but like a lot of shit on me. And there's just I don't have trouble from demons because I don't start trouble with demons.
Maybe not demons specifically, but how do you treat like if you notice that any magic is coming at you, right? Like a curse, a hex, something like that.
Mm,
When you know that, like, do you go full Doom guy then?
it depends. It depends. So, for example, I have these people casting at me right now who are from a splinter faction of DCAMU who we kicked out because they're a bunch of fucking horrible people. And they're mad that DCAMU has no longer allowed them a shitty space to be the shit people they are.
Mm,
And they view me as somebody who is the reason for that. So they've been throwing at me rather consistently. And I know this because I've had like the effects hitting me. Several of my wards have popped and
mm,
like for example, I had a vial of water I would hold while I was dreaming that physically shattered, right? Not in
mm,
my hand because I was lucky, but like I can tell when one of my word pops, right?
right.
And something that my friend told me, which really helped me get better at warding, is when you make your wards somewhat fragile, the fragility of them allows them to take the hit, right? So, like when I dropped that vial and the fact that it smashed and my sacred water went and spilt, that was instead of me getting nightmares or horrible cursed dreams and shit like that,
Right,
right?
it took
Or
the hit
like
for
when
you.
yeah, or like when my necklace pops at the links and falls apart, or like my Six of Mars slips off, which is an incredibly rare one to happen. But I had one day where my Six of Mars slipped off, and then my turquoise and copper ring fell as well, which is like a big,
Mm,
oh no, sort of symbol. So I was trying to put them back together, and then immediately after we started getting hit from those people on our server, like they came in to like raid us and troll us and shit. We had to like ban them and stuff. But like they very clearly had fired a focused intent at me before coming in to like disorient me and make it work better, like some coordinated shit, right? So I've been patient and just letting them throw at me. But if they piss me off to the point where it's justified, I'm just gonna reach out and make them have a very bad day.
that's fair. It feels justified given the situation.
Yeah, I don't let me put it this way. I don't like to get into petty back and forths ever. I'll let somebody throw at me enough times until I can throw back at them once and I don't ever have to do anything ever again.
Mhm. Yeah, that makes
That's how I
sense.
roll.
I feel like you expend too much energy with the petty back and forth, tit
Mhm.
for tat kind of situation. It
And
never really pans out.
if they're throwing hard enough to, like, break several of my wards, no. I know exactly who you are. The synchronicity tells me exactly who did it. I'm not fucking stupid. I've been watching this shit for ages. I know
Mhm.
what to do. I'll come in. I'll take your name. Oh, and I'll tell you about the curse that I invented. You could take a hard drive, I don't know, like a 2 terabyte one, because they're really easy to get and they're really fucking big. You can put a folder inside a folder, inside a folder, inside a folder, inside a folder. See where I'm going with this?
Mhm.
You put the targets, I don't know, name, personal information, photo in the first folder. Then you put in a bunch of things that you want associated with, like, I don't know, dog shit or a coffin or
Mm.
any amount of curses that you could just download on PDF or any amount of horrible things that you could cram into that folder that you want to put in with them. And then you step out of that folder and you have the folder that's outside of it. And then you could put custom words in that one. You could put custom JPEGs of words that you drew up, and you can do that every single layer to put a custom enchantment on every single folder so they're stuck within a layer, within a layer, within a layer that's not just like uniform copied and pasted, but like sealed every fucking part of the way up for 100 layers. And then you can take that hard drive, you can seal it with paint and all these symbols and stuff, wrap it in tinfoil, chain the fucking thing, and bury it in a Ziploc bag in the ground where no one's ever gonna find it.
Fucking yeah. Fuck. That sounds amazing. I mean, also, like, do that when you really need to. But yeah, the idea of like all those layers, because like, and it's not, and you're like you said, they're not just copied. So like, once you figure out how to beat the first layer, yeah, then you know how to beat all the other layers because they're just copies, right?
Hmm.
Almost like a video game in a way, structured like that. It's structured like levels that they have to get through, but each level is different and presents its own challenge.
Hmm. And so that's kind of similar to like a freeze charm, how you put somebody's name on a piece of paper and throw them in the freezer in like a jar so that they like get frozen and have like all of their affections get pushed away from them and their relationships fall apart and shit. It's kind of similar to that. You could put somebody in a folder within a folder within a folder to make them so isolated from themselves that you literally like spirit their essence away into that drive and then bury it in that area. Or you could do any number of things that you could possibly think of. Hell, you could like literally, I know people who have made like copies of the things that they want to destroy, like facsimiles of it in a digital space, and then destroy it or delete the file as like a ritual. And now you are gone into the nothing, and I have torn you asunder, so mote it be, you know?
Hmm.
The applications are as infinite as you are creative with your digital spaces.
Totally.
But
Um,
like literally just holding this hard drive here, I can feel its fan. It has to pull energy into it. It has its whole own circulatory system. It's got a vibration from that fan, right? I hold it and I can feel that like it's got life to it, you know? This is like its own little pocket universe, and it's still over here doing its thing.
a pocket universe that contains other universes.
Mhm.
Fucking wild. Um, I mean, I'm kind of okay with this being a little bit of a shorter episode, considering the last two that we posted were pretty long. They were like two
Sure.
plus hours. Um, is there anything else that you kind of wanted to add into about video games?
I mean, I could go on for forever, but fuck, let me think for a second. Um Yeah, the one thing also I'll say while we got it that they allow us to do is try things out. It's kind of like Dungeons and Dragons, right? Beyond just like a magical sense, you can like be somebody different for a while. You can experiment and see what it's like to be somebody who has confidence, to be somebody who stands up for themselves, you know, to see how to approach a problem or a situation from a perspective that you might not have considered before. It requires you to problem solve and to change, right? Like when you go into a game to play it, you have to change to beat it. You don't walk into it and do the same thing over until it works. You'll be destroyed. You have to learn to play it. And in that way, a lot of games demand that you master them, that you get good as they colloquially that you
Get good,
get
scrub.
good as they would say. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um and honestly, it's true because you have to learn how to play them, how to be them, and like they change you as you play them, you know? I can tell you for a fact how many different combat situations that I could go into that I just know things for from video games that I just wouldn't otherwise, right? You know, like if there's a fire extinguisher in a wall and I need to create smoke cover, I can shoot that and it'll go off and it won't kill anybody, but it'll certainly cloud the area, right? Stuff like that.
Exactly,
Like
yeah.
it just and I guarantee you, like in the future, if there's some crazy shit like a war going on, and a general would look at you after you did something crazy, be like, "How the fuck did you know to do that?" You'd be like, "I play video games." It's like how well prepared are you for a mech battle at any given moment if like the government were to just roll out mech technology? Could you just like figure out how to ride that thing, you know?
Yeah, for real. I feel like we all probably could.
Mhm. It teaches you to do things beyond what you thought you could possibly do, and you can be whatever you want to kind of do for a little bit in it. So like go load up what's it called? Chrono Trigger is a great one. Go kill the big bad that is transcending time and trying to devour our universe because he's out there and we're fucking sick of him, you know? Go kill Moloch or Koronzon or whatever you need to do. Go train up your digital self and level up. Do whatever you fucking want and watch how it'll spill over into your own life.
You can find Witches Betwixt on the big three social medias, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Our handle is Witches Betwixt, all one word, on all three platforms. We all check each one, except Twitter, which is exclusively run by me, Jay, but feel free to message us on any of them, and we'll get back to you. If you want to add your post to our online community, use the hashtag WBTWXT. The links to our official Facebook group, Discord server, and website are in the show notes below.